What's up, sneaky people? It's your boy FB Kicks and Gear, and I am back with another video. And this time I have an updated legit checking guide featuring the Jordan 1 Lost and Found. This is an authentic pair from the most recent restock / shock drop. And we have an updated pair of reps for the Jordan 1 Lost and Found. And since my first few legit check guides were featuring my two authentic pairs from the original release, I figured since there are going to be new people on the market for these, I might as well use a new pair. These are not new per se, but new as in newly released. And I'll do an updated legit checking guide because there have been things that have changed since I first got my authentic pairs and I first put out the videos. And that was what, back in December? I don't remember, but it's been about 5 or 6 months since these released. So let's get a updated guide out there. And as always, you will be able to find detailed pictures of this rep pair on the Instagram account on the screen right now. It's important that you guys look at the details, know what you're looking for, because if there's something that you can hone in on and point out on a rep, it'll help you avoid it to buy the authentic pair. So take a look at that Instagram account and inform yourselves, educate yourselves, do what you got to do. With that said, let's get into the legit checking guide. And just like in every other video, we don't start with the shoes, we start with the boxes and the accessories. So let's do that. So for the first time in a while, we actually have two boxes that are exactly the same size. I know that the whole shape of the box is off screen, but trust me, I'm looking at them right now. They're the same size. But the differences that you can see in the box are pretty much identical to the differences in the Jordan 3 Reimagined. And that just happens to be the aging effects that are all around the box. Specifically, here's a good place to highlight. The aging effects that are all around the box just appear different on the reps. In some cases, you can take a look here at this detail in this area, or better yet, take a look at here. Now look at it on the rep. The markings, the general shapes are the same, but the definition is like night and day difference. Even as pixelated and not kind of focused that the wearing pattern looks on the authentic pair, it's even less detailed on the rep. And if you take a look at the box lids side by side, you can see what I'm talking about. Right here is the authentic wear pattern, and here is the rep. See the differences in the definition and the resolution of the actual image. The same thing goes throughout the entire box. Now, there are going to be people that say that is such a small thing to pay attention to, and it is, but you know what? That is something that you can use to differentiate the real and the fake boxes. From there, we'll take a look at the sales sticker. In previous videos, the sales sticker, it was always easy to identify on a rep because while the edges of the sticker on the authentic pair are sharp and straight, on the rep pairs from the past videos, they had rounded corners and rounded edges. Well, now the reps have updated the sticker as well. And you can see sharp corners and sharp edges just like the authentic pair. But when you put them side by side, there are just slight color differences between the stickers themselves. The authentic sticker almost has a highlighter yellow kind of vibe going into it, or a lemon yellow, I should say, vibe going to it, while the rep is just a slight bit more saturated, if that makes sense. They're very, very close, but it's just that color difference. It really stands out to me, at least in person. I don't know how well it's coming out in the video, but you can also see the actual numbers. The sales sticker here are just a little bit more bold than on the authentic pair as well. Here's a good side by side of that, but you can see that they have updated the edges. The sticker has sharp corners just like the authentic pair. That was not the case back when I first started these videos. In fact, I have an old box right here where you can see the rounded edges and the rounded corners of the old box. So they have definitely updated that. These were really easy for me to call out just based on the rounded edges, but now reps have gotten wiser and they have decided to make the stickers more accurate. This is not something you see very often, where 5-6 months after release of the official shoe, and that's probably 8-9 months to a year since the release of the Rep, they updated the packaging, they updated the accessories. That's not something you see. So there must be some kind of demand for this shoe that Rep Factor's, all right, well, let's get the accessories a little bit more accurate. And I can actually show you that they did that in the next comparison aspect that I'm going to be looking at. Now, we do know the one accessory that these shoes do come with is the receipt. The Rep receipts used to be easy to tell because the font and everything just looked different. The text looked perfect, crisp, and clean. It didn't look like a triplicate form like the authentic receipt. And what I mean by that is you can see that all of these letters and numbers, they are like smeared. This is like something that you would expect from that time period. And Reps just didn't get it right. Here's an example of the old ticket that came from old Reps. When you compare it to the authentic one, you can just see the night and day differences between everything. Look at how much neater and cleaner the letters are, how much bolder the letters are as well. Take a look at that Paul L signature. Look at the 8/30/86 date. Specifically, I like to look at this letter right here. It's like a form number at the bottom of the receipt. Look at how unclear it is. And when you look at the old receipt from the old Reps, look how crisp and clean those letters are. Now, when you take a look at the new receipt, they are almost identical. Just very, very, very slight differences in, honestly, the color saturation. This still comes off as a fresher document than this, but they've gotten even the little details right. Look at how the letters and numberings aren't fresh and clean anymore. Actually to the point where they're a little bit less neat than the authentic one on the left. But this is dangerous because now this is going to be harder to tell between the sticker and the receipt. They've made enough updates to really muddy the waters in terms of legit checking. But that's pretty much it for the accessories, the box, the sticker, and the receipt. Let's actually get into the shoes now. And here we have it. And just to reiterate, the pair on my left is the authentic pair, and the pair on my right is the replica. Now let's get into it. So while this was a restock, a re-release, this is still the same batch of shoe. It's not like Nike made more pairs and then released them. The dates on this are still May 11th, 2022 to July 14th, 2022. So it was made last year in that same time frame. So these aren't new pairs. So a lot of what has applied in the previous videos will 100% apply here. And I know that most of you guys are going to ask, because I made such a big deal about it in my other legit checking guides, is the pointed A still there on the authentic pair? And if you look really closely, it is. Ever so slightly, it's there. When you look at the other shoe, the pointed A is there. Now, for those who haven't watched my other videos on the Lost and Founds, please watch it. But for those who haven't watched my other videos, I made a discovery a while back, probably the second legit checking video that I had done, that there's this pointed A under Made in China where there's just a slight point right at the top of the A. It's like a piece of the embroidery just adds a point to the A. And it's something that I realized, or that I found, was only on authentic pairs. And yes, I am taking credit for that because I am the first person on YouTube, on Reddit, anywhere to point that out and actually find that issue. But only authentic pairs had that pointed A. Now, not all authentic pairs had that pointed A, especially with the larger sizes, 13 and up. But if it did have a pointed A, it was definitely authentic. And without further ado, let's see if the Rep has it. And that is an astounding no. So they have not updated the Reps to have that pointed A. And we'll take a look at the other shoe. Still flat top on the A. Now, like I said, there are authentic pairs that have A's like this, but we know for a fact that only authentic pairs have that. So that's the big thing That's the easiest tell. It's a very, very, very subtle thing, and I've noticed, or I've seen in my comments in the other videos, people thanking me because they were able to confirm that their pair was authentic, and I'm glad that people are still using that tip. But outside of that, what else can we look for? There is a overall shape that this shoe has that is slightly different from the traditional Jordan 1 High OGs that we've been expecting, and different from the 85 cut Jordan 1s. Take a look at the shape, specifically pay attention to the toe. It's round, it's not super thin, but it's not flat either. Take a look at how the proportion of the ankle cuts and the heel cuts, take a look all around. Kind of looks like a standard Jordan 1, but not. It's got a mix of like the 85 and the high OGs that we're used to seeing. I've heard that people say that these are supposed to resemble the 94s, but I can't confirm that. But when you look at the rep, while everything kind of looks the same, they definitely, this is just the shape of the standard Jordan 1. You can tell because the toe is slimmer. It's not kind of fat like the authentic pair. The back portion of the shoe definitely rides a little bit taller and straighter, as opposed to the more aggressive curve that happens on the back of the authentic shoe. But that's usually the case when it comes to reps. You're usually not going to see one-to-one the same exact shape. But in terms of materials, I gotta say that they look identical. Now the pattern obviously is a little bit different. While this looks like a more uniform cracking on the toe, on the side panel barely has any cracking here, but see it. This almost looks like the material is, I don't know how to explain it. You see how they're like curves and how it radiates around on the rep pair? This almost looks like shattered glass as opposed to cracking leather. Take a look. When you look at the other shoe, same thing. Now, that's not indicative of anything in terms of legit checking, but theoretically that could happen. But it looks different. In terms of feel, they feel exactly the same. In terms of color, there are slight differences in color between the white leather and the red leather. You can see the rep is a little bit more of a sporty red, while the authentic pair is more of a team red. When you look at the colors of the tongue specifically, there's definitely a slight difference in colors of the tongue. The rep pair is a lot pinker than the authentic pair is. The authentic pair is definitely a lot more off-white, beige kind of a color. And then the same thing goes for the trim around the tongue as well. The authentic pair almost has an aged material around the tongue, while the rep is a bright white. Take a look at them side by side and you can see the difference. While Nike really focused attention on making this look like an aged shoe, the rep just has this new look to it, like this new look and vibe about it. But while we're still on the tongue, you can also see that the tongue tags are slightly different colors as well. The rep is definitely darker. It's more of a burgundy color as opposed to a red. Also, the shape is a little bit different as well. The rep is definitely compressed, and the tag is definitely got a chokehold on the top of the tongue. When we look at the Wings logos, while they look very similar, the Wings logo on the rep just feels a little bit more crowded than the authentic pair, if that makes sense. The authentic one just has a little bit more uniform spacing, while the rep just looks like the spacing isn't uniform. I don't know what else to say. It also looks like the rep is a lot more bubbly than the authentic pair. Don't get me wrong, this is still embossed, but this feels and looks like the Wings logo itself is a lot more prominent on the rep, and you can see that definition. Position wise, very similar though. One of the things that I noticed in my original real versus fake comparisons was that the black sock liner was slightly different on the reps than it is on the authentic pair. On the authentic pair, it's a dark black, while on the rep, it's almost like a bluish black. I don't know how well that is appearing on the screen, but there's a slight, very slight dark navy blue tint to this black, while the authentic pair is a traditional black. Other than that, there's really not much to talk about. Some people like to analyze the midsole pattern. I don't, because frankly, if you're looking at the midsole pattern and that's the only thing that stands out to you, it's probably an authentic pair. But when you look at the shoes, you can see that there is it's hard to tell with the aging effect, but when you look at the shoes, there's definitely a slight color difference in the reds on the authentic pair compared to the rep. Not huge, but it's there. But overall, I would say that they're pretty close. I'd say looking at the shoe, the biggest tell in my opinion is the tongue looking so much more fresh and clean than the authentic pair. The authentic pair looks more aged than the rep does. Swing it around back, I know people like to look for the hourglass. Personally, I don't think the hourglass matters because of how shoes wear, but you can take a look at the backs of the shoe. You can see that the rep is a little bit taller of a shoe than the authentic pair is as well. And not only that, the cuts of leather are thicker on the rep than on the authentic pair. And you can see that here up along the collar. Look how thick that material is compared to the authentic pair. And you can see that raw edge. Very interesting. My authentic pair seems to have a lot less or a lot more cracking than the rep does, but this is definitely within range. They feel the same. They feel like they're using the same kinds of material. And I think other than that, the only other thing that really is worth looking at now is how it looks under the black light. So let's try that. So just like we do on every other video, when we're doing a black light test, we'll take a black light to the authentic pair, see what lights up, and then take it over to the rep pair and see what happens. So going around the shoe, looks like the white lace is reactive. Nothing really reactive on the tongue at all. Not the Nike AirTag. Looks like the white stitching that crosses over the swoosh is reactive a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but it is. Nothing really popping up. So really the only thing that's reactive is the white stitch. We'll take a look at the other shoe, make sure. Nothing crazy going on. White stitch. We got a paint correction on the midsole. Right below the swoosh. Looks like the back of the tongue is super reactive. And that's pretty much it. So if we're looking at the rep, we want to see the white stitch light up. You guys tell me. It doesn't look like the white stitch up along there is lighting up to the same extent the authentic pair was. So, but let's do it side by side to make sure. They look pretty much the same. The stitching itself is just slightly less reactive on the rep than it is on the authentic pair. But what we're really looking for is to see if the back of the tongue lights up like crazy. And it does, just like the authentic pair does. So that's it. There's not really much left to go. The only thing you can really critique on is craftsmanship. But it feels like the craftsmanship is more or less the same on the authentic pair versus the reps. Nothing too crazy on the stitching. Craftsmanship is well done. Squeeze test. The sole is sturdy and strong, just like the authentic pair is. More or less, the biggest differences outside of the box and the sticker and receipt on the box, it's the tongue. The tongue is really what tells the story. The outside border of the tongue is different. The color of the Nike AirTag is different, and the color of the tongue itself is different. So other than that, you're looking at a really, really, really close rep. Lost and Founds are by far the closest reps that I review on my channel, along with Travis Scott Jordan 1s. And yeah, guys, you really have to be on your game when you're buying these, because there's a lot of them out there and the reps are really good. So be careful, guys. With all that said, remember you can find more pictures of the rep on the Instagram page that's going to pop up on the screen. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.